So today we're going to be talking about how to create a culture drip campaign. In the marketing world, a traditional drip campaign is typically known as a communication strategy that sends or drips a pre-written set of messages to customers or prospects over time. These messages often come in the form of email marketing, but this is not what I'm referring to when I say drip campaign. This could also be called a strategic plan, a supplemental business plan, or a culture roadmap, but call it whatever you like. For all intents purposes, though, I'm going to be calling it a drip campaign. It is a focused, intentional roadmap developed to improve company culture. 2 years ago, I created my first drip campaign when I noticed that our culture was not where I wanted it to be. I chose to call it this because I wanted to emphasize that it was not going to be something that I was going to shove down people's throats. If I wanted to have buy-in for the improvements that I was looking to make, I needed to create a plan that was like a dripping faucet, slow and steady, released as bite-sized changes. I wanted these priorities to become deeply embedded in our culture, and I wanted them lived out every single day. And I knew that by intentionally building a plan, I would be able to look back at the end of the year and use it to ask myself if we had filled the entire cup using the dripping faucet. Did we move the needle forward? Did we create the kind of impact that we wanted? And after the first year, I can honestly say yes. This is why I'm so passionate about teaching you how to create and implement your own drip campaign as a best practice. Why is it important to have a culture drip campaign? Drip campaigns help to ensure that every employee is highly engaged and fully leveraged. In turn, this produces the best results within the greatest amount of value possible for the company. Anytime we assess our business, we should look at it with a critical eye and say, where's there opportunity for us to improve and get better? Where is there an opportunity for us to innovate or create more value? Some assess their businesses through a SWOT analysis. I'll do some coaching on that in the future. Some use more sophisticated measurement tools, but no matter how you assess your business, what matters is that you are conducting regular assessments. You should be doing these weekly, monthly, quarterly, annually. Audit, 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 measure, measure, measure should be the tune of your business. When first creating your culture drip campaign, you want to start with the end in mind. Create a vision of a better state and use this as your guide. I personally envision a workplace where every single employee is empowered. I want them to wake up every single day and feel excited to come to work. You may be asking yourself, is this really that important? And the answer is yes, it is vitally important. Good company culture should be a business strategy, not an afterthought. And here's why. We know that employees who are highly engaged directly benefit the bottom line in a positive way. Bain & Company found that highly engaged employee drives 2.5 times more revenue than less engaged employees. Gallup found that engaged employees are 17% more productive. Earnings per share directly correlates with employee engagement. The bottom line is this: having a great culture directly impacts the bottom line, and a strong company culture equals better business results. Here are a couple of questions to ask yourself before creating your culture drip campaign. How can you determine the best behavior to demonstrate that will lead to the outcomes you want? Then, how do you measure the frequency with which those behaviors are being demonstrated? What I have found to be true is that every team member, no matter what kind of business you're operating, has two things in common. Number one, they want to be successful in their role. And number two, they want a place of belonging. When an employee feels as though they don't belong, it's only a matter of time before they quit. How to create and implement a culture drip campaign. First, you need to identify areas where you believe improvement is needed. If you find yourself in a place of overwhelm, unsure of where to begin, I suggest you start small. Remember, this is about implementing change over time. Think of this as micro changes. And a great place to start is by becoming more intentional with your team. You can do this by talking less and listening more. Leave your office door open. Pick your head up from your computer or your phone and start to look at your employees in their eyes. You want to be able to engage with them by asking questions. When you're creating something out of nothing, you're constantly spinning all the plates and everybody's moving at the speed of light. And I would leave my door open thinking that I had the open door policy. But the truth is that somebody, if they needed me, they'd come and stand in my doorway and I wouldn't even look up from my computer. They would be asking me a question and I would answer them, never actually looking at them in their eyes. And I had to learn the hard way. So my strong suggestion for you is that to make your people feel as though they matter, you need to acknowledge them, look at them in their eyes when they speak. And I cannot reiterate the importance of this enough. When you do this, you'll begin to notice if your people are happy. If you will just peek your eyes out of your office and look, are people laughing? Are they smiling? Are they having a good time at work? Or are they having fun? Or are they stressed, overwhelmed, burned out? Are they miserable? Are they building friendships at work? Or is the environment cutthroat and gossip-filled? Are you experiencing turnover and a retention problem? When you ask team members to complete projects, do they show that they care? Are they respecting your authority? Are they doing it with enthusiasm? I think you can really tell how good you are at leadership by taking a close look at your team. I can remember not that long ago, I had a leader say to me, I don't think that I've got authority with my team. And I said, tell me more. Why do you feel that way? And this person said, because when I give them a directive, they actually don't do it. They straight up don't do it. And I think it's an important lesson that you need to take pause and take inventory of your team. Are you happy with them? Are they producing the amount of results that you want them to? Here's the thing that might sting a little bit. You may not have a people problem, you may have a leadership problem. There are many areas and opportunities and rocks to overturn in every business. And if you really want to develop an understanding of your people, a smart thing to do is to administer an anonymous survey. By asking your team members a few simple questions, you can begin to see a pattern of behaviors of either highly engaged or not engaged employees. You can distribute surveys through a Google form or a platform like Qualtrics. If your team is small enough and you have good rapport, you could ask questions through open dialogue. Other tools include administering a stay interview, 90-day reviews, and annual reviews. I'll do a whole coaching series on that and the power of these things at another time. But for now, here's a handful of simple questions that you can ask to understand employee engagement. Question number 1. How much do you agree with the following statement? My manager frequently gives me praise for the good work that I do. Praise is an important aspect of coaching. It must be specific and sincere. When you think about praise, I want you to think about being a coach and not a cheerleader. A coach is on the field with you and in the business with you. They help call plays to competitively position you to win. A cheerleader is on the sidelines, cheering and screaming platitudes. You are not to be a cheerleader. You are to be a coach. Praise is a form of accountability, helping to ensure that you will see the same pattern of behavior repeated. If you do not hold people accountable for bad behavior, there is a high probability that it will continue. For example, if I allow one of my team members to show up late to a meeting and I never say anything, then others will begin to do the same. And eventually, everyone loses respect. And the environment is created where other responsibilities like meetings and quotas will start to slip. But on the contrary, when everyone is punctual, and you say, hey, I really appreciate everyone being on time so that we can make the most out of this meeting and end on time, it encourages this behavior to continue. I want to tell you a story of an employee that I had, and I just delight in this story because it was her very first day. Now, what you need to know is that one of our company's core competencies is initiative. And early on, I wanted to ensure that everyone was taking extreme initiative. So when this new hire, on her very first day, walked by the trash and noticed that it was full and took it out where no one told her to do it, she literally took the trash out, walked across the parking lot, threw it away. Before she walked back to her desk, I pulled her into my office. I stopped her and I wanted her to know how much that I had appreciated this kind of initiative. I also, at the next staff meeting, bragged to the entire staff to try to reinforce the expectation that I had about initiative. Now, a disclaimer is I knew that this employee would not mind that I publicly praised her. And it's an important thing. Not everybody likes to have public praise. So make sure that you know your people, because the last thing you want to do is embarrass them. But ultimately, praise is important. And it's proven to be directly correlated between leaders and how engaged their teams are. Question number 2. How much do you agree with the following statement? My manager regularly solicits feedback. Everyone wants to be seen and heard. If you want to have an incredibly inclusive organization, you must ask for everyone's opinion and feedback. I actually love to stop meetings and even ask our interns, hey, what do you think? The more an employee or intern feels included and feels like they are heard, the more engaged they will be. This does not mean that you always have to apply everyone's opinion, but it does mean that you need to stop and listen and hear what people have to say. No one wakes up and say, I'd like to go to work today, and have no input whatsoever. The second and very important part of this question is how good at we are closing the loop. Now, this is a big one. We recently received feedback through a culture assessment that said leadership was doing poorly in this area. Overwhelmingly, we heard that we're great at asking for feedback, but we're not so great at explaining why we make certain decisions. So guess what's on this year's Culture Drip campaign? An intentional effort to close the gap and over-communicate in this area. Question number 3, implement questions to ask. How likely are you to refer this company to a friend or family who is looking for employment? You want to be able to do this to determine your Net Promoter Score. This tells us a lot about how we're doing as a company. You also want to ask questions like, how satisfied are you with the work that you do? How fulfilled are you? How proud are you to work here? You can even ask questions about their intent to leave or their intent to stay. There is fascinating data that shows that when asked this, most people will actually answer truthfully. After you uncover some of these pain points, you can create a plan of action to begin making improvements. Don't try to fix everything at once, because the dripping faucet will quickly turn into a fire hydrant. When I first launched this, I picked 3 objectives to focus on. Number 1, ensuring our values were defined, shared, and lived. Number 2, ensuring team members had a clear understanding of how to drive value for the organization by launching our RNEs. And number 3, improving communication. A best practice pro tip is never try to create a plan to improve the problem by yourself. Ultimately, you will be the one to champion the plan and you will be the one to trailblaze for it. But I strongly suggest that you review the findings with a committee or a leadership group to determine what can be done together. Building a drip campaign should be both bottom up and top down. A great suggestion is to ask questions or appoint people to come up with solutions. From there, you can create a 1-year roadmap, month by month by month. You can start and release this at any time. It doesn't have to be at the beginning of a new year. First, think through creating a timeline for improvement. I like to create my drip campaign based on a 12-month calendar that begins in January and ends in December. It's not as much about the timeline as it is the thoughtfulness behind the rollout. So for example, it could look like this. In January, send out communication and hold a team meeting to release the drip campaign. You want to make it fun, so provide coffee or a meal. You want to introduce the people who put the plan together and talk about the excitement of the plan. You want to share what it looked like to create the plan and the impetus for why this was important. Talk about the vision of a better state. Share all of this in terms of who, what, when, where, why. So who created the plan and who does it apply to? What is this plan? When are we starting it? Where to share feedback, questions, comments, or concerns? Why is this important to create? So you'll recall that I had identified 3 objectives for my drip campaign. I wanted to first ensure that our values were defined, shared, and lived. I wanted to ensure that team members had a clear understanding on how to drive value for the organization, so we launched our RNEs. And lastly, we wanted to improve communication. So what I did was every single month, I created every month a little drip on how to improve those things. So in January, we knew that we needed to roll out our values and we wanted to define them. And I think this is where a lot of companies will fall short. They have values that live on the inside of an employee handbook, or they're up on the wall, but they're not defined and they're certainly not lived. I wanted our values to be lived. And so we were intentional that in January, we were going to host our very first State of the Union address, where I was going to roll out our strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats for our business. And I was also going to roll out the new Culture Drip campaign. But I didn't tell them every single month we're going to be doing these things. But I rolled it out by living it out. So when I talked about our values, I defined them. And then I said to them, this is what it looks like to be an Angel employee, no matter where you are. Because we have 21 sites. We have 108 employees. It's important that they are defined so that people can live them and so we can all hold each other accountable. So we talked about it in January. We talked about it again in February. By March, we had updated to reflect our new core values in our 90-day review and in our annual review. We had put it in our Angel's Way, which is a guiding principle manual that every employee receives when they come on board with us. We also updated our employee handbook, the selection process, onboarding, training materials for new hires, job profiles, board profiles, and then we updated our website. We asked for a guest speaker to come and talk about the importance of being a principal-led organization. So you can see that every single month we were so intentional about creating a roadmap, a drip campaign where our team members were going to be able to understand this new nomenclature, this new way of National Angels. And so here's what I want to leave you with. Winning the Super Bowl never happens by accident. It is deliberate pursuit of great coaching, strategy, having the right teammates on the team, and also practice. You practice and you practice and you practice over and over and over again. And that's what it means to run a business. And so I just want to empower you that this is what my drip campaign looks like. Yours should be looking completely different because you've got a set of objectives and challenges that make up your own unique business and your own unique market. Doesn't matter what it looks like. What matters is that you are intentional about creating a company that is striving to get better and improve. Excellence happens in inches, and it is the deliberate pursuit to put something down on paper to improve culture that makes the employees excited to wake up and go to work every day. Good luck.